What is up, you amazing people? It is Nima here, and today I want to talk about a game that actually hasn't released yet, unless you pre-ordered the exclusive, deluxe version, which is really only a couple more dollars. And if you're into the game, you should do it. Anyway, it's called Lost in Random: The Eternal Die. It's the sequel to Lost in Random. Now, many people might remember this game as being that game that looks like Tim Burton directed, something out of Nightmare Before Christmas. Very detailed, very narrative driven. In fact, the weakest part of Lost in Random in many people's eyes was the combat. Well, for the sequel, they ended up doing a complete 180. Well, I feel like I've had enough time with this game, basically I've almost beat it, to get into this and talk about it and give you my thoughts on it. And just a heads up, I did play this on the Switch too. But before we get into this game though, please hit that like and subscribe button. You have no idea how much that actually helps. And there's a number of people, in fact almost every YouTuber you hear says, hey, like 80% of my audience actually isn't subscribed. Well, that's the case with mine as well. So just think about subscribing, liking, sharing. All of that really helps, and you have no idea how important it is to me. Enough of that crap, let's get back to the game. So Lost in Random: Eternal Die starts off basically right where the last one ended. And I know that you're already thinking, so wait, do I need to have played the first one? It would help, honestly, because I didn't, and it really did seem like there was a number of characters and interaction. Hell, even the main character in the second one, the anti-hero, if you will, was the bad guy from the first game. I didn't know that, really. I sort of knew that only because I remember what the last one looked like and kind of some of the trailers for it. But anyway, her name is Alexandria. She was the evil witch from the first game, like I said, the big bad. Well, she was defeated, obviously, in the first game, sorry if that's spoilers, but then was cast into the Black Dye by Mar. And through the infancy of this game, you really do run into a lot of characters that apparently Alexandria has wronged, and you have to kind of make amends a little bit, but really she's not focused on any of that. In fact, like I said, they did a 180 on everything. That's including the narrative, storytelling, and the dialogue. There isn't nearly as much dialogue as there was in the first game, apparently. And as I said early on in the game, Alexandria kind of comes off as a hollow character. Is only out for revenge and to get herself out. Does not give a crap about anyone else, besides maybe Fortune, who is the little die that you kind of have as a sidekick and really becomes an important part of the combat in the game, but we'll get to him in a little bit. But as the game really gets going, it does sort of feel like a nostalgia walk down memory lane, and for somebody who hadn't played the first game, it just meant I was kind of meeting new characters and trying to learn about them, but they didn't explain a lot about them. There was just this apparent past that you were supposed to know about. And it was at that point that I thought, maybe I should just play the first one first. It's gonna take a little bit of time, but maybe I should just hold off. But really, I got hooked into this game by the combat, and honestly, the story and characters and all that didn't really matter as much. But as I progressed through the game in combat, they actually started telling more about these characters and expanding the story, even expanding Alexandria herself, becoming a character who wasn't so one-dimensional, until many of the side characters and NPCs really started to gain their own depth in the game. And I really appreciate that form of storytelling, if I'm being honest, because if I had played the first game, that would have been so just tedious to go through all these characters and all this stuff all over again. But this way, it sort of engages you in the combat, which is the main hook of this game, and then slowly starts spoon feeding you some of the more information that you want to know, as well as seeing, like I said, some of the characters that you started to get used to, you start to see them grow, or you understand their past. Either one really helps you add more depth to the characters and to really round out the story. Now, to be fair, it's still not like this super heavy narrative game with this like complex story that has you at the edge of your seat. Not really. There is enough in there for you to be interested in, but like I said, the main hook, the main feature of this game is the combat. This is a roguelike game, which, like I said, is completely different from the last game, where a lot of people did criticize it for just being kind of simplistic when it came to combat. Well, like, they've done a complete overhaul of that system with it being a roguelike, obviously. And the thing is, I was a little bit nervous because I thought, okay, this is obviously a franchise that doesn't put combat very highly, and now they're going into a roguelike scenario, which I think we've all played enough roguelike games to know the same loop and the same stuff, and it's actually getting kind of old, honestly. So what is this company going to bring that is any different than what some other companies have been doing roguelikes for a while? What are they going to do that's going to be different? Well, I'm pleased to say that they actually have a really fun, engaging progression system that I think in many ways is uniquely theirs, and it really ties in with the game and bolsters this strategic thinking that is really going to help you create the optimal build for Alexandria. Now, as I talked about before, you have a little friend named Fortune, and he's your die. You can throw him, and he will do different things depending on what you roll. You can roll 1 through 6. You will acquire different buffs that will allow a special move to be done, or a buff for you or a debuff for the enemies, depending on what number you roll when you throw Fortune. And early on in the game, most of these are determined by what relics you find. You see, when you clear out a room, most of the time you will get the opportunity to choose a reward. One of these might be a relic, and a relic is something you can attach to your character that may or may not affect Fortune. Sometimes it gives him like the ability to spew poison, or maybe heal you after you get a certain throw, something like that. But then other times they have nothing to do with Fortune at all, and it's all focused on your main character. These relics, though, are also incredibly important because of the way they're laid out. When you go to equip these relics, you'll see like a little grid. This is where you can equip your relics. And if you notice the relics themselves, they usually are a certain color or a combination of colors. And at the very bottom right-hand side, they'll also have like a little icon, like a sword, which would be for damage, or a little die, or luck, or something like that, that you'll get an idea of what these relics really buff or debuff. Oh, anyway, if you set 3 in a row, whether it be for an attack or color, it actually goes into a stat bonus for you. So setting these up is really pretty important. Now, even if that seems a little complicated, I'm going to try to show you guys how to do it on screen. But even if it does seem overly complicated, just note that it's really not. It's pretty simple when you get down to it. But relics aren't the only things that you can acquire. Other things include cinders, which are important for weapon upgrades. Along your travels, you will find a character who has been kind of thrown aside and has had many weapons stashed into them. You can acquire these weapons from him, and he does get added to your hub or like your main area, so you can kind of visit him whenever you do. Now, once you acquire these weapons, it will require cinders to unlock them, and then cinders to also add enhancements to your weapon. Essentially, look at this guy kind of like a blacksmith or something of that nature. The other thing that you can acquire is pip dust, and this stuff you can actually use to permanently upgrade your character. There will be a witch who looks like a giant frog that you will find in your hub area, who will exchange these for, like I said, permanent upgrades. There's also cards that you'll find while you're out that usually offer some sort of extra special attack. You'll find a few of these along your run where you can change to what style works best for you, or even try to just completely sync your build altogether. Ultimately, yes, this is just a typical roguelike in many ways, but with enough add-ons to a solid structure that actually keeps this game addictive and different. I really enjoyed the actual gameplay far more than I thought I would. Another reason why I did, honestly, it didn't seem as hard as a lot of roguelikes I've played before. And I know for some people, that might be a turnoff, but for me personally, I enjoyed seeing my runs get a little bit deeper and deeper each time, and when I faced a boss or something, I could see a path forward. Where in some of the other games that are just straight, pure, brutal roguelikes, is almost like, man, this is as far as I can get, I'm done. And I didn't have that feeling with this. I really enjoyed that, and like I said, they would keep that going by spoon feeding you a little bit more about the story, about the character, as well as expanding upon all of the base stats that you could with your character, working on new builds, and just ultimately keeping that cycle going over and over. Like I said, thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the things that I have to mention, because it is the most important, honestly, controls. This game is smooth. It is like butter. Like, it responds to every button prompt right when you need to. Never had an issue with that, as well as performance, by the way. Like I said, it is a Switch 2 that I reviewed it on, so I don't know how it's going to play on other systems. But for the Switch 2, no lag, no stuttering, no nothing. It ran wonderfully and also looks really good. So for me, I would advise picking this game up. It's incredibly fun. I really enjoyed it. If I had to give it a number score, honestly, I would give it like an 8.8 out of 10. Like, this is really close to a 90 in my opinion, but that's just my thoughts. It is under $25. You can get it for like $24 if you want to play it a day earlier. It does drop tomorrow, but anyway, that's just my thoughts of Lost in Random Eternal Die. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have you checked out the first game? Have you already checked out this game? Are you interested in it? Is it something you're going to pass on? Or, I don't know, anything and everything in that comment section is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.